Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fiets of Strength. This episode's pretty exciting. This year I found out that I'm about to be an uncle, but it does leave me with the decision, do I want to be a cool uncle or a creepy uncle? We'll see how it goes, but I'm hoping that this new project gets me a whole lot closer to being a cool uncle. Come on, I'll show you what I made. It's a cute little push bike. So I'll do a quick walkthrough of some of the components of this. This is a section of DOM tubing, a little leftover scrap from one of my cargo bike projects, and I practiced a couple of test bends on it with my new tubing bender. I'll have a video on that one soon. Over here in the box, a whole bunch of other goodies. My buddy Graham hooked me up with these really cool custom 12-inch hand-built wheels. And the 16-inch fork, it's pretty sweet. We're going to be shortening that up. He also gave me these other fork ends with disc brake mounts. I've got a tiny kids bike seat and a takeoff seat tube. A little bit of metal to clean up on that, but that'll work. And also a tiny brake lever and disc brake caliper. I've got a box of miscellaneous head tubes. Gonna find one that's going to work for this. It should be pretty good. It'll need to get cut down. I'm gonna throw some tires on these wheels so I can get everything mocked up. I gotta tell you, disc brakes on tiny wheels look awesome. So first things first, I need to shorten this fork up a bit. A little bit too much clearance. So I'm just gonna take a quick measurement here. And also scribe the line of where I need to cut down the head tube. I'm going to do a quick layout here, sort of figure out where roughly everything's going to fit together. One of the key tips that my buddy gave me was to go with an undersized handlebar. Tiny hands on a tiny bike. You don't want the bar to be too big. So I have this extra piece of tubing here. It is loose in the stem, so I'll need to come back and shim that up, but we'll get to that in a bit. I'm not entirely sold on these fork legs for the back of the bike. I haven't quite figured out a way to round them off and connect them to the frame in a way that isn't going to leave any sharp edges. So I've got a bucket of miscellaneous forks and bits over here that we'll see if I can find something else that works. Got all kinds of cool stuff in here. Some oversized gold mountain bike handlebars. Sure. How about some moped racing exhaust? Why not? This is what I'm looking for. 26-inch cruiser bike fork. That'll work. So we'll just do a little bit of cleanup on this. All right, shortening up the fork. I actually need to shorten it about as much as this tape is wide, so I'm just going to carefully put some tape onto the fork, and that'll be my mark for how much tubing to cut out of it. And carefully cut along the edges of the tape. Now, once that's all cut out, I'm just going to clean the insides with a little rat tail file. And I have another piece of bike tubing here that's a perfect sleeve onto the inside. So we're going to sleeve this fork before we put it all back together, clean off some of the paint with a wire wheel, and cut out 2 segments of this tube. Now, in order to affix the telescoping tube on the inside, I'm going to drill a couple of holes into the fork legs all the way through. These will get plug welded on both sides. And holes all the way through the top of the fork crown as well. So now you can see we can slide that inner tubing on the inside, clamp it all together with our dummy hub. And with a couple of plug welds, I'll be able to fill that, lock the inner tubing in place, and then I can weld up the seam. This one's made with these little tabs here at the bottom. It's going to make it a lot easier to shorten it up. I'm just going to cut those off, clean them up, and repurpose them. Now here I've just got the tabs clamped parallel to one another so I can tack them in place. This is not appropriate spacing for these fork ends. This will be cut apart anyway and respaced so it should all fit perfect. Next, I'm going to take this hole saw and cope and drill out some of the main tubing. One's going to be for the seat tube and the other for the head tube. I'm going to skip over most of the layout here. I've got another video where I go a little bit more into detail about how I do this process. Feel free to check that out in the link. And a straight edge tip to tail just to make sure everything's still aligned. I'm going to fly through adding a rear disc brake onto this bike. I've got a video on adding disc brake tabs. Click the link if you're curious. Now let's take care of the handlebar situation. Going to nip off the end of this piece of tubing. And here I've got a secondary piece of tubing that will work as my shim, so we'll just prep that. While the paint's drying, I felt the need to point out just how cool the wheels are for this bike. Can we look at those again? Somebody cut spokes to the wrong length, so what to do with a bunch of really short spokes? We'll build up an awesome wheel. Radially laced every other hole on one side, one cross on the other, and this really smooth hub and radially lacing on the front wheel. Got it all built up, time for the beauty shots. Of course, it'd be way easier to just buy one of these push bikes, but where's the fun in that? Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next week.